We don't take an oath to a king or a queen or to a tyrant or a dictator. And we don't take an oath to a wannabe dictator.
One of the nastiest countries to deal with is Canada.
Because Canada and the United States, that would really be something. You get rid of that artificially drawn line, and you take a look at what that looks like, and it would also be much better for national security. Don't forget, we basically protect Canada.
Canada gets a lot of freebies from us, by the way. They should be grateful also, but they're not.
Ambassador specifically said that Canadians were mean and nasty for not buying American alcohol and for boycotting the U.S. in terms of travel. And at the same time, like, do they think that Canadians are not going to respond when the president says, I want to turn you into the 51st state and beggar you economically unless you bow to the U.S.? Like, obviously Canadians are outraged. I say Canadians stick with it, like, hold the line.
President Trump thinks Canada will cave in. We will never, ever bow down to a bully.
Let the Epstein class fight the Epstein war. Earlier today, I wrote a letter to the Prime Minister telling him to take action to stop the war in Iran. It is causing a lot of suffering overseas. It is causing a lot of economic pain to working people here in Canada. And not a single Canadian should ever be put in harm's way to try and defend Donald Trump's foolish Iranian war. And I'll go a step further, and I'll say no American either. No American child from the blue collar or the middle class should have to die in Iran. Let the Epstein class fight the Epstein war.
You know, it's hysterical, the MAGA response to Canadians boycotting American products and canceling their trips to the United States. Well, we're not going to buy Canadian products. Honey, that's going to be hard because you can't even identify Canada on a map, let alone Canadian-made products, so good luck with that.
Trump's Commerce Secretary, as well as frequent character in the Epstein files, Howard Lutnick, went in front of the Senate today and said this about Canada.
It is outrageous that Canada will not put U.S. spirits on the shelf. It is insulting.
Look, the only reason Canada is boycotting U.S. spirits is because Trump randomly placed tariffs on Canada out of nowhere. Also, it's not a secret Trump's been trying to bully Canada into becoming the 51st state. Canada did not start this one. Trump did. Obviously, everyone knows it.
Even when Canada plays nice with the U.S., Trump hits us with something else. So a lot of Canadians who started out wanting to play nice, they've completely changed their tune. And now they support a total boycott on all American products. Canada's stand against Trump's bullying is not just a short-term protest. It's a full-on grassroots revolution, and it's here to stay. It's not a boycott anymore. It's become a way of life.
America is not Canada. And Canada never, ever will be part of America in any way, shape, or form.
I think at the end of the day, the United States will find themselves in quite a lonely place. I mean, I'm the most pro-American president in Europe. I'm an avid transatlanticist. I want the relationship to work, but I fully also realize that, you know, with certain patterns of behavior, there is going to be a feeling of, okay, if you treat me like that, I don't feel very good about it. And we can see that with European states. We can see it with, you know, Gulf states and many others. So I hope that it's in the interest of the United States, if it wants to continue to be one of the world hegemons, to have close friends and allies.
The reason why the United States has become the most powerful nation in the world is because we have very powerful friends, okay? The United States has relationships with other countries that last literally hundreds of years, namely with Canada, Mexico, and the UK, okay? With a single president, in under 3 months, we have already threatened to annex Canada. We have threatened to send drones into Mexico, and we're claiming that Europe has never done anything for the United States, okay? We don't have allies anymore. All of our former allies are teaming up together to figure out what to do without us, okay? And if you think that America is so rich, so powerful, that we could never fail, that we could never fall, you are sadly mistaken.
Here's my problem with Canada. Canada was meant to be the 51st state because we subsidize Canada by $200 billion a year. We don't need their cars. We don't need their lumber. We have a lot of lumber. We freed it up, as you know, last week. We're freeing it up so that you can actually cut down a tree without being, given the death penalty. Because what these radical environmentalists have done to our country, but we freed it up. But we don't need their lumber. We don't need their energy. We don't need anything. We certainly don't want their automobiles. They make a lot of millions of automobiles are sent in. I'd rather have them made in Michigan. I'd rather have them made in South Carolina or any one of our...
But you're tougher with Canada than you are with some of our biggest adversaries.
Only because it's meant to be our 51st state.
Donald Trump wants to break us so America can own us. They want our land. They want this land. They want our resources. They want our water. They want our country. Never! Because Canada is not America. It is not for sale. It's not America. It never was. Never will be.
The president saw the premier, Doug Ford, make an egregious and insulting comment threatening to shut down electricity for the American people, for hardworking American families. He made that threat. The president saw that and has an obligation and a responsibility to respond accordingly and represent the interests of the American people. So he has made the decision to add a 25% tariff. So now steel and aluminum tariffs will come into effect tomorrow at the rate of 50%.
I'm disappointed that I came to Canada, a Canada that it is very, very difficult to find Canadians who are passionate about the American-Canadian relationship. Okay? You ran a campaign where, it was anti-American, elbows up, me too. It was an anti-American campaign. That has continued. That's disappointing.
That is like the worst strategy I've ever heard. They suck. Look, we are a $30 trillion economy, right? We are the consumer of the world. Okay? Carney has a problem with us. He gets on a plane and he goes to China. Does he think the Chinese economy is going to buy his stuff? China is entirely an export-driven economy, right? So what did he do? He came back and said, we'll take their electric cars. I mean, is this nuts?
Dear citizens of Canada, most everybody in the United States is with you. If you don't want to buy our products, don't do it. Buy Canadian only. We'll be fine. Trust me, we'll be fine. We don't agree with Supreme Leader Trump. We don't agree with what he's doing. So you boycott us, and I'm with you, okay? Most of us are with you. If, for whatever reason, the U.S. invaded Canada, which won't happen, but if it did, I would side with Canada. I would fight with Canada, okay? I canceled my trip in the United States this summer, my summer vacation to the Jersey Shore, because I live near the Jersey Shore. I canceled my Jersey Shore vacation because I'm taking a vacation to Canada this summer and spending my money in Canada as a U.S. citizen. So please welcome me and my family with open arms. We are with Canada, okay? We are on your side. We will fight with you. And if you need to boycott the U.S. products, you do that. Do that. Show Trump he's wrong.
Americans and Canadians are two people, two countries, in my view, sharing one heart. Our destinies are intertwined and they're inseparable, not because of the inevitability of geography, but because it's a choice we've made again and again. The United States chooses to link our future with Canada because we know that we'll find no better partner. And I mean this from the bottom of my heart. No more reliable ally, no more steady friend. And today I say to you and to all the people of Canada that you will always, always be able to count on the United States of America. I guarantee it.
Suddenly, after mocking us for decades, millions of Americans want to move to Canada for a better life. Interesting. You know how you have that big border below you to stop them from doing the same thing? Yeah, we have one of those too, because you're our Mexico, by the way. And we get along great with Mexicans up here, and we both agree that you need to keep your pesky gun violence away from our borders at this trying time. And also, keep your greasy hands off our maple syrup factory, igloo building, Canadian bacon serving jobs. Thank you.
Some perspective for Americans who are going after Canada again. Look, Canada was disrespected by an ally, and they simply responded. It's well within their right to push back, alright? And just because they don't want to sell US products anymore, doesn't mean you can get cranky about it.
I am sick and tired of Canada kowtowing to the rest of the world. I heard a politician say, we have to be careful because the rest of the world loves us. No wonder they love us. We're weak, we're spineless wimps. And foreign aid, if you want to get into that, here we got people dying. Here we got people dying for want of beds, and we're giving money to the foreigners. No way. It'd be Canada first, and Canada only. That's what I am. A nationalist. I'm going to start a new power, the nationalist. Whether I'm dangerous, I just say what I think. And it's the way I think. You could say it's bigotry if you want. I don't think it is. I'm pro-Canadian. More so than I'm anti-Soviet or anti-Swede. I wish more Canadians were like me.
If I have one message to our president, it's lay off the ridiculous rhetoric about Canada being the 51st state. As an American, I'm ashamed, right, of the arrogance and disregard that we've shown one of our historically oldest, strongest, and most loyal allies. These international tournaments for Canada mean something different now. As an American, I'd like to address the 51st state discourse, which I find unsettling and frankly insulting. Canada is a strong, independent nation that's deep-rooted in decency, really. And it's a place that values high ethics and respect, unlike the polarized, disrespectful, and often now hate-fueled climate that's in the U.S.
Well, we got to stick up for ourselves. And the Trump administration attacks us. We have to push back. The Trump tariffs come off, then, we can talk to Elon about rebates for his cars. We can talk to American distillers about carrying their products. But in the meantime, talk to your guy. Talk to your president.
I know that many Canadians, to many of them, the United States does not feel very welcoming right now. I get that, given the reckless and disrespectful rhetoric coming from our president. Hear me on this. I respect Canadian sovereignty, period.
So Trump built a wall, but it's a tariff wall, and it's targeting us. Trump's tariff tax is an attack on Canadians, and it's super important for us all to stand together as Canadians and to be united. And so the province of Manitoba, we fully support the federal government's response to these U.S. tariffs. And we, as the province of Manitoba, are going to be announcing new steps every single day this week to protect your jobs and to safeguard our economy here at home. And on a personal level, if you're looking for ways to fight back, just remember to shop local and to buy Canadian. Where you choose to spend your money, those are some of the most important decisions that you make.
Family, Canadians are known around the world for many things. They are often viewed as polite, diplomatic, patient, and even willing to avoid unnecessary conflict. And for decades, that reputation has been one of Canada's greatest strengths. But lately, something has been changing, family. Across social media, political discussions, and even public conversations, more and more Canadians are expressing frustration, anger, and exhaustion over what they see as constant attacks, insults, and pressure coming from MAGA circles in the United States. Now, many Canadians are making it clear that they are no longer interested in quietly absorbing those attacks. They're fighting back. And for years, the relationship between Canada and the United States has been of the closest partnerships in the world. The two countries share the longest international border on earth, diplomatic economic ties, cultural similarities, and even millions of family connections. Yet, despite this close relationship, political tensions have increasingly spilled across that border, and as American politics became more polarized, Canada found itself dragged into debates that many Canadians never asked for to be part of. And what has particularly frustrated many Canadians is that the growing narrative among some MAGA supporters that Canada represents everything they oppose politically, whether it's healthcare, whether it's immigration policies, gun regulations, climate initiatives, or even multiculturalism. Canada has has increasingly become a target in American culture wars, and Canadian policies are frequently mocked in certain political circles, while Canadians themselves are often portrayed as weak, dependent, or somehow inferior to their American neighbors. But here's where things get interesting, family. Canadians aren't simply ignoring these attacks anymore. They are across, what you can see across social media platforms is that Canadians have begun pushing back with a level of confidence that is surprising many observers. Instead of remaining silent, they are defending their country's institutions, economy, healthcare system, and even national identity. And many are openly challenging claims made about Canada and highlighting areas where they believe their country is succeeding. And so what makes this moment particularly fascinating is that the pushback isn't only coming from politicians, family. Ordinary Canadians are participating. Small business owners, you can see teachers, healthcare workers, students, content creators, and everyday citizens are speaking out. They argue that Canada should not have to constantly justify its existence or even apologize for making different political choices than the United States. And so many Canadians point to quality of life rankings, international reputation, public safety statistics, and social stability as evidence that their country has chosen a different path for a reason. And they acknowledge that Canada has problems, but they reject the idea that those problems prove the country is failing. Now, in fact, we can say that many argue that every nation has challenges and that comparing countries honestly requires looking at the full picture rather than focusing only on negative headlines. And another factor driving this reaction is the perception that some American political figures and even commentators increasingly treat Canada as if it should automatically align itself with the U.S. political interests. And Canada across the political spectrum often respond by emphasizing the sovereignty. Their message is usually simple: Canada is an independent country, not an extension of the United States. And that message seems to be resonating with a growing number of people. The more criticism Canada receives, the more some Canadians appear determined to defend their national identity. And so instead of weakening Canadian pride, repeated attacks may actually be strengthening it. And at the same time, this debate reveals something really larger happening across North America. People are becoming more protective of their national identities in an age where political narratives spread instantly online. Social media rewards outrage, it rewards conflict and even emotional reactions. And as an insult, disagreements that once stayed within national borders now spread internationally within minutes. And so the irony is that many Canadians don't necessarily dislike Americans. In fact, surveys constantly show that Canadians generally have positive views of ordinary Americans. And what really frustrates them is the feeling that their country is constantly being used as a political punching bag in debates that they didn't create. And so we can see that frustration is turning into something more visible, whether through viral videos, whether through political commentary, whether through public statements or even online activism. Canadians are increasingly showing that they are willing to challenge narratives that they believe are unfair. They are refusing to stay silent simply because they are expected to be polite. And this doesn't really mean that Canada and the United States are headed for some dramatic breakup. The relationship between the two countries remain incredibly important and deeply interconnected, but it does suggest that Canadians are becoming more assertive in defending their country when they feel it's being misrepresented. And the bigger question here is that moving forward is whether this growing tension will fade or continue escalating, and will political divisions on one side of the border continue spilling into the other, or will both countries find ways to disagree without turning each other into political enemies? And one thing is becoming increasingly clear, family. Canadians are no longer content to quietly absorb criticism and move on. A growing number feel that they've been pushed too far, and now they're making their voices heard. Whether people agree with them or not, one reality cannot be ignored, family. Canada is pushing back and the world is starting to notice.